All right, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Marnie Hughes. We begin with some breaking news in the largest manhunt that we have seen nationwide in nearly 2 decades. Authorities believe convicted murderer Gonzalo Lopez is not in that wooded area of Texas that they have been combing through day after day for more than a week now. Last Thursday, Lopez somehow got out of his shackles, cut through a metal barrier, and then stabbed the bus driver, the officer. A bystander even caught him running away on video with police standing nearby. Take a look.
Yo, we saw the inmate.
Oh my God.
What the heck?
He's in the woods.
Well, he was in the woods. This violent escape ignited a massive search spanning more than 100 miles. Authorities creating a perimeter, and then they started to close in. But despite helicopters, horses, canine teams, and daily assurance from authorities that Lopez was hiding in that area, they now say they are expanding that search outside of the original area, and he has not been seen. And that means a highly dangerous criminal tonight is still on the run and out there, and he could be anywhere by now. Authorities believe Lopez has ties to the Mexican mafia. He was found guilty of capital murder, killing a person with a pickaxe, and also accused of aggravated assault. He is accused of opening fire at that deputy sheriff as well, and he is serving life in prison when he got away last week. I want to bring in former FBI agent Jennifer Coffendorfer. She's been following this case very closely. As always, good to see you. So the longer he's gone, harder to catch?
Absolutely, Marnie. The longer he's gone, it's really just like any criminal case. The longer they drag out evidence and the ability to find them becomes less and less because it gets further and further out of where they are looking.
Everyone understands why they focused on the area around the bus immediately after his escape, because that's where he was. But as the days started to drag on, people started to question, why aren't they looking anywhere else? Well, a week later, they are, in fact. Are you surprised that they didn't start that sooner, given the fact that he's got these ties to the Mexican mafia?
I am a little surprised. I think it was normal that they created this large perimeter and searched within that perimeter, thinking that he was on foot and acting alone. But because of his ties to the Mexican mafia, arguably the most dangerous criminal street gang in the United States and prison gang, they operate both within and outside the walls. I truly believe this was completely planned and staged, and he possibly had help.
Right, and probably a getaway car, right? So he was able to get out of that area well before they were able to set up the perimeter.
Yes, I think that's very possible. It seems to me he actually had a device such as a paperclip that he had secreted somewhere, maybe under his tongue or in his mouth. He planned it maybe with a guard that he felt did a less, good of a job to search him. He used that and got out, and he planned exactly where he wanted that to happen at a precise point. And I would say he probably had somebody standing by that was going to meet him and get him out of that area. I just think that's a very strong possibility.
Jennifer, I want to go back to this piece of video early on in the search that caught my attention and a lot of others as well, of the woman and her son who were driving by in that car, and then they spot him just moments after the bus crashes. He's running off into a cow pasture. Let's play that for folks at home, and then pay special attention to law enforcement who she alerts that she sees him running away.
Yo, we saw the inmate.
Oh my God.
What the heck?
He's in the woods.
So what stands out to you here? I mean, you can see him, then you see law enforcement. They're within proximity. They have a lot of manpower there. What really comes to the surface for you?
I guess just the fact that somebody didn't take off after him. I don't know exactly their manpower configuration at that time. They did have a bus also full of inmates. So there were several factors to consider. But I'm quite surprised that two of them did not take off on foot as fast as they could after him. So they're not in the situation they're in now.
Right. I mean, and it's difficult to second guess at this point, but we're asking all of the questions a week later because he's still out there. And the threat to the public is severe, given his violent criminal past. What is your message to people out there? Is he the type that probably is long gone, or could he be a real risk to the general public as he tries to hide?
Well, I think you have to really look at both of those factors and say he definitely could still be a huge consideration to be a danger to the public in that area. In other words, if he comes upon a house, he could try to enter it to get food, to get a cell phone. He could try to take over a car. So anyone and everyone in the general public in that area needs to definitely be on the lookout and be aware of their surroundings. But I truly do believe he had help. I base that on the fact they have not found him and on the fact that he is tied to the Mexican mafia, well-organized group, and that he had help escaping that area.
Jennifer, we have been speaking early on with the Texas Department of Corrections as they were leading this investigation. And I want to play here a soundbite from Robert Hurst early on as they're conducting this search about how he was able to, one, get out of his shackles and handcuffs and then get through that partition on the bus. Take a listen.
Another officer who was in the back of the bus who quickly and heroically and smartly decided to shoot out the back tires of the bus as it was driving down the highway. He had gotten out of the back of the bus through the emergency door, shot out the tires. Lopez then lost control of the bus.
So the thing I want to point out here is that Robert Hurst and others have said that this criminal is crafty and he had done this before. So he had escaped, eluded authorities for about 9 days. So knowing that, I asked Robert Hurst on the air, was he searched before he got on that corrections bus in transport? And he said all of them had been searched. So I guess I don't understand how he could have gotten away and done this with two officers on the bus, given his past that they knew about.
Well, typically, these prisoners are, in fact, strip searched before they're allowed to leave on a bus setting like this. But remember, these criminals are very smart and savvy. To secrete a paperclip in your mouth underneath the gum in some fashion would not be impossible. And depending on the guard that did the search, maybe they just overlooked it. They weren't on their game that day. And that led to him having a device that he could use to undo the handcuffs and the leg shackles.
But doing that is one thing, but how do you get through the partition? They haven't released what he had with him, that one, he could get through the partition to the officer, and two, what he stabbed the officer with in the hand.
Well, in prison, they make amazing what they call shanks and other devices from metal and so on and so forth that they have on site there at the prison, and other things that are smuggled in. So my belief is that he had probably a shank and some other sharp object that he was used to penetrate that window, get across to that guard and stab him. And I do believe that it was smart that the other guard incapacitated that bus by shooting the tires so he couldn't take the bus any further. But still, he was able to escape on foot and no one ran after him.
While we've got you here, Jennifer, there is some other new developments in the escaped inmate from Alabama who's now back in custody, Casey White. I know you've been following this case closely as we have. He has been ordered to provide a DNA sample to prosecutors. They did not cite the reason for that request and wanting the DNA, but what do you think that that signifies?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, anyone who is incarcerated on a felony will have, as a matter of procedure, their DNA taken and put into a database. It's just like fingerprinting now, if you are arrested for a felony. However, in this situation, they have sort of a black eye, if you will, from his ability to escape. They didn't follow proper procedure and protocols in terms of him not being in the company of two guards when he was transported. And therefore, they are dotting every I and crossing every T to make sure they acquire the evidence by a court order. which is above and beyond what would normally be required. Although it is routine to get a DNA sample, they don't want anything to go wrong in this prosecution.
Real quickly, Jennifer, media attention in the case of Casey White and that escape nationwide was the reason that he was able to be captured and brought back to Alabama from Indiana. The same, you would think, would be said for the situation in Texas right now. You've got this violent murderer out on the loose. Do you expect that more media attention would help? And how much do criminals watch the media to try to stay a step ahead of authorities?
Well, media is certainly a double-edged sword when it comes to fugitives. On the bright side, you have the attention from a safety aspect that needs to be got out there to the public so they can be on alert. And then also they're going to be on the alert so they can actually help with their eyes and see potential fugitive sightings. On the dark side of that is the fact that you have fugitives that could be able to watch the television, see media, and know exactly what law enforcement is doing. I still think the media putting the name, the face, and everything out there is of utmost importance from a safety aspect and catching these criminals. So it's possibility that the media presence will, in fact, just like with Casey White, resolve in him being found.
You know who to look for and you know who to stay away from. Call 911 tonight if you see Gonzalo Lopez in Texas or elsewhere. Jennifer Coffendorfer, as always, thank you. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.